Morning everybody, it's Nick. It's really kind. I got a comment yesterday on YouTube asking if I was okay because you hadn't heard from me for a while, so thank you very much. That is really kind, and I hope everybody who gets anything out of these vlogs is doing okay too. What's the latest and greatest? So gosh, what is the latest and greatest? So the HR implant that I had a couple of months ago now is working well. My estrogen levels are up, as is my testosterone level. The antidepressants I was taking worked very, very well. I noticed a couple of weeks ago that I was starting to feel very sedated on them, and almost like they were a little bit more than I needed. So I have taken a break from them. Didn't just stop them. I spoke to my GP and just ramped them down slowly. But I have to say that I'm feeling okay. I haven't had a crash, which I think for me, in terms of listening to my body, means that, and I think it is interesting that your body is actually talking to you all the time, or our bodies are. The fact that I was starting to feel a bit drowsy on them and not quite with it, I think probably told me that they'd done what they needed to do, because when I first started taking them, it was literally like somebody, waking up from a long sleep. They were really, really brilliant. And I didn't really notice any difficult side effects, to be honest. So when I did, I think that, for me, in my mind, that's my body saying, actually, I'm okay. My serotonin's okay. One of the other things that's happened in parallel, which I do think happened, it is really contributing. And it's always amazes me just what an orchestra and how sophisticated our bodies are, is a lot of our serotonin, I have learned, is actually kept in our gut. And one of the things I'm going to show you, because it was really, really good. It was really, really good. I've just finished reading is this book called The Magic Pill by Johan Hari. And I have to say, anything he writes has always been very, very transformative for me. So bear with, the dots will join. So on my last visit with my consultant, he told me my insulin resistance was back, and it was raging, really. And I knew something wasn't right because I just felt so awful. My stomach was solid and very, very, very large, like I was 6 or 7 months pregnant. All of my joints ached, etc., etc. I was breathless a lot. I put about 3 stone in weight on. Anyway, what had happened is, as my estrogen had dropped off, because I've been off HRT for several months, the insulin, which is our biggest hormone, was just running riot. And I do have I am prone to insulin resistance. It does rear its head. It's always there. It's just that when I have estrogen, it keeps it in check. So once the insulin's in check, the estrogen is strong enough to keep it in check, but the estrogen is not strong enough in my body to actually bring it down in check. So that's why I need the medical interventions. The reason I read that book is because there have been some new wonder drugs, as they're being called, developed. They were developed predominantly for diabetics, and now they're being used for weight loss. I can't remember all of the names, but there's Ozempic, which was like the first generation, and there's another one. The jury's out. They're still relatively new, etc., etc. When I spoke to my consultant, I personally, it's a very personal choice, and I think it needs to be made in conjunction with a really well-versed medical professional in this. And reading that book actually tells me how important that is, because it is so nuanced and subtle, and there are, the risks and benefits. There isn't a black and white picture, but for me, I've always got on well with metformin, which is a drug that actually helps your body be far more efficient with insulin. That's a massive oversimplification, but it's what my brain can cope with. It does, for me, it takes longer, so I've been on it 6 or 7 weeks now, along with some diuretics. And the reason I take those two things, diuretics, the reason I was in so much pain, particularly in my joints, and I was very, very breathless, was because my body had filled with fluid from the insulin resistance, which meant I had fluid in my joints, which was causing me a lot of pain and making me feel very immobile. I mean, I wasn't immobile, but it was making me feel quite, really old and difficult to walk, and it was painful. And because there was so much fluid, my diaphragm just wasn't having enough room to breathe fully up and down. So the diuretics have helped enormously shift the fluid. And, I noticed last week, God, I was so much lighter and it's so much easier walking. And my stomach now is floppy. So my stomach now is a bit chunky because it's fat, as opposed to being bloated and really solid with fluid. My appetite in terms of, craving, you crave with insulin resistance, you crave particularly carbohydrates and sugary things. It's like, I remember when I was smoking and, 20 years ago, and you craved a fag, it's that kind of acute craving. Those cravings have gone. I'm only taking one metformin a day. I'm actually meant to take up to 3, but I find that if I take too many, I can get quite nauseated, and I completely lose my appetite, which I don't think is particularly healthy. And that's part of the debate over these weight loss drugs that they're now being used for, their injections, the new kind of fangled stuff. Is do we really want to lose our love of food? And I don't. What I do want to do is I don't want to be thin for the sake of it. I want to be healthy. I want to feel well. And whatever weight I am, being healthy and feeling well and feeling fit is absolutely fine for me. It doesn't have to be that I look a certain way. I'm 52 years old. I think if I lost too much weight, I'd probably look really aged. So it's a very personal choice. So I have been taking metformin for my insulin resistance. It has worked beautifully. I just take one at the minute. And one of the things it makes me do is really think about what I'm eating, because if I eat really heavy carbohydrate or fatty heavy food, I just don't feel very well. So one of the things I've noticed is I'm eating a lot better because I'm eating a lot cleaner. And that's the big thing actually that came out of the book, was about are we missing the fundamentals, which is, our food chain isn't clean. Our food industry, there is so much processed food, there are so many additives. Half the time it's really difficult to know what we're eating because we can't even work out what's been put into food. I mean, I'm completely flummoxed by most of the labels on food, and actually eating healthily, which I am enjoying, but I have to say costs a lot more money. I've really noticed the difference in my bill at the checkout by being really strict about not, or trying to put as little processed food in my basket. I mean, to a certain extent, everything's processed, right? But I mean, things like checking that the meat is clean meat, are the cows grass fed, for example, if I'm buying beef, rather than, I don't know, whatever they do to them, artificial growth, God knows whatever. So there's an awful lot in there, isn't there? So you think, oh, why am I talking so much about insulin resistance? Because, it's a really big deal as part of my menopause, because it's probably always been running in the background, but it, came out to really ravage me with the menopause because my estrogen dropped off, and it's all part of that system. And the first thing, I think, I'm repeating myself, what my consultant did for the first 6 months of treating me was, I didn't go near HRT. He just focused on getting my insulin under control. So I've dropped about a stone just in pure fluid. I don't have scales in the house, and I'm not going to have scales in the house, because it's really important for me to do things because it makes me feel healthy and be able to enjoy life. I don't want to get into the rat race of looking into the mirror and worrying about, whether my boobs have dropped too much, whether my stomach's too fat or whatever. I don't want to get into that shit. I want to embrace myself for wherever I am. I am feeling hugely better having the insulin under control, and eventually I will be able to stop taking medication. Probably, I think the way it's going in 6 months or so, because as I get my estrogen levels up, my insulin under control, I will naturally lose some of this insulin-induced weight, which is very much my middle-age spread, and the fluid. And what that means is I have less fat cells in my body. So actually, it becomes a self-perpetuating thing where less fat cells, therefore calling on less insulin. And actually then I will start to be able to naturally regulate, which is what I used to do for a good 3 or 4 years. I wasn't on metformin because actually I just naturally regulated my eating, because my insulin was in check and my estrogen was at a good level. I just got out of kilter when my estrogen went down. So I'll definitely have another implant when I need one, which won't be for a few months. It has worked well. if I started feeling very overwhelmed, anxious and sad and not coping again, I would definitely go back on the antidepressants I've been on. They were hugely beneficial with very little side effects. And when I did notice the side effects, i.e. A very heavy sedated effect in the evening when I took them, for me, that was a signal that my body was saying, actually, you're okay, Nick. You're okay. You can do this. You've got this. I'm also being much kinder with myself. So one of the things my consultant talked to me about was our adrenaline gland system, and how really they're only made to go roughly about 8 hours. So that we should chunk our day down into smaller chunks. And apparently he tells me the only way they replenish themselves is if we're actually laid down. So at least twice a day, I have actually got into a rhythm of taking a 30-minute lay down in my Zen den, which is my bedroom where I am here. It's a bit of a Zen den. And I've purposely made it so I've got a bit of escapism. And I think that's really important for you to have me to have my quiet escapism. And I come in here twice a day, usually just before I leave. I don't go out to work until late morning. That's something else that I've organised, is to not feel rushed and thrown into the day too fast. So I don't start work early. I start later in the day. So I come in here before for half an hour. I usually get showered and then come in here and lay down. I just play some Reiki healing music in the background and I just navel gaze for half an hour, and it's actually really lovely. And at the end of the day, when I get in from work, I come in and I'm a little bit tired. So I come and lay down for 30 minutes before I then go into the next part of the day, which is, cooking dinner and catching up with everybody and being mum and wife. And I found that doing that and giving myself permission to do that and actually getting into a habitual and organising things around it has been so beneficial. So beneficial, I can't tell you. It's really helped my energy levels. The other things, I haven't been manic with myself, so I've been giving myself permission. I still wake early, but I give myself permission to come back to bed with a cup of tea and actually read. And I'm finding reading really therapeutic. And at the minute I'm reading this book, which is really good. And I've followed a lady called Tilly Loves Books on Instagram, and she has some really, really great recommendations. And I think I'm just enjoying the escapism and the therapeutic nature of just reading, to be honest, because it's quiet, so I'm not getting the sensory overload with it. And it's a little bit of I think something about reading a good book actually gives you some mental downtime. There's something it does to your brain. I don't quite understand what, but I think it's proven in the science that it really gives you time to replenish and some escapism, because it drowns everything else out, because we live in a world where there's just so much coming at us all the time. We really have to find ways of being able to we're getting mentally fatigued, and the research on menopause has shown, the scans taken during a woman's brain when she's in the perimenopause, the full-on state where I am now, is real brain fatigue, and I think we're just getting hit from all sides. And I think that is amplified by the way our environment is, not helped either by reading The Magic Pill. It really opened my eyes to the food we're eating and what that is doing. So I don't think I'd understood, if I'm honest, I'm really giving enough attention to the part food plays in the menopause. And reading that book, The Magic Pill, was really really rewired my brain and really made me think about it. And I think that, coupled with the insulin resistance running riot and therefore having to turn my attention to the diet, has been really helpful. I've been continuing with my yoga, not this power kill yourself yoga, but very authentic, old-fashioned yoga, which is very slow. A lot of the work you do is about breathing and just helping you understand your body, and different exercises that can help with different ways that you're feeling. And I have kept with my swimming club, the Masters Swimming Club, on a Sunday morning. I'm on week 5. It's still quite brutal. I'm still by far the slowest and unfittest in the lane, but I'm still turning up, and I'm getting a feeling of real accomplishment. So I think there's almost kind of like a rewiring in my brain going on. Because, in the old days, if I wasn't in the pool pounding the laps 2 or 3 times a week, I would kind of judge myself and say that I wasn't doing very well. And I think there's just this kindness I'm extending to myself that says, if I just turn up once a week on a Sunday, I'm doing really fucking well. And I'm finding a lot more peace with that. So here I am in the morning, having my tea, reading a book. I'm just going to get up and say bye to my kids before they go to school, their GCSEs and A-levels. And, really hope that helps. I think, it just goes to show that menopause is just about everything. It's just about a whole lifestyle, not just the biological, medical sides. And I know that everybody has different challenges and different demands on them and may not have as much flexibility in their working and home life as I do. So I am hugely grateful for that. But I just hope that we can all, in our own way. I think there's a lot of the environment we live in that works against us. And I think I'm really learning this approach of it's not just a matter of me whacking the HRT on. There are some fundamental lifestyle changes I've made over the years, but also I think I'm really learning about some fundamental changes in my brain, about giving myself permission, being kind, and changing that quite kind of aggressive, competitive view I had on myself, and just being. So lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.